Peace be with you.
And also with you.
It's so good to have you here. It's time to wake up. Time to wake up. Yes. And it's today's reading, though, sounds like disaster is coming. What Sylvia was just talking about, like the Son of Man, the Mortal One, is arriving. Bad things are approaching very soon. I first want to assure you that disaster was averted at my Thanksgiving gathering this year. A few years ago, I made a vegan pumpkin cheesecake. There's a lot of allergies in our family, and this is a way for us to satisfy all those different requirements. And my family loved it that first time I made it a few years ago. And they asked me to make my vegan pumpkin cheesecake again. And so I gladly complied. And they're there at that next Thanksgiving, and everyone is eagerly putting the pumpkin cheesecake into their mouth. And then I hear the sound of gagging. And they're like, "What did you do? What did you do?" And I was going through the ingredients, and I realized I forgot all sugar. And suddenly people are like running to the bathroom or running to the kitchen. And so I was very surprised that my daughter Becca asked me to make it again this year. And I'm like, "Becca, don't you remember the pumpkin cheesecake disaster?" And she says, "No, Dad, you can do it. You can do it." So both my daughters were cheering me on, one from France, one from Brookline. And I am very pleased to announce that nobody gagged when they ate my vegan pumpkin cheesecake. And in fact, Quinn asked for seconds. So phew. That's really, a 3-year-old is a tough criteria to meet. But today's scripture reading has often caused people to panic, fearing the worst disaster possible. The arrival of the Son of Man, we hear Jesus say, will be like Noah and the flood. People knew nothing until the flood hit and swept everything away. And that's just the first of these 4 quick examples. 2 men will be at work, suddenly one's taken away. 2 women will be at work, suddenly one's taken away. And the final of these examples, if you knew what time a thief was coming in the night, you would have been ready. You'd be ready. And all these 4 examples tell us again and again, be vigilant, be ready, stay awake, stay awake. You have no idea when the Son of Man is going to show up. And with this kind of language, it's no wonder that people become very fearful, or this can feed into fear sometimes. If you're full of fear, you want your sermons full of fear also, and fire and brimstone and warnings about going to hell. When I arrived at Payson Park Church a number of years ago, a few people told me they wanted these types of messages. However, I told them I don't preach about fear. And those people have since gone elsewhere in search of fear and punishment from God. People throughout history have been motivated by this fear and see the arrival of Christ sometimes as a necessary and horrible event, with only a few select, and often they're in the few select, being saved. In Scotland in 1830, Reverend Darby in Scotland invented the concept of the rapture, where a select few are like beamed to safety and the rest of the people are wiped out. So that was invented in 1830 from a mistranslation of one word in the book of Thessalonians. And Darby claimed that, the special people would be saved. There was such fear going on. It was the Industrial Revolution. Society was in a tumult. And then later on in New York in the 1850s, the Millwrights gathered at the top of a hill in northern upper state New York, waited for Christ to swoop them up. In 1993, David Koresh gathered his followers of the Branch Davidians for the end of all time in Waco, Texas. And there are many more examples of people fearing horrible punishment with the second coming of Christ and wanting to separate themselves. They are the select few that will be saved from this horrible, horrible event. Also, every 500 years, people think the world's going to end. And at the year 500, at the year 1000, at the year 1500, you remember what happened in the year 2000? People thought all the computers are going to stop working because they can't handle the change that the fourth digit going from the 1 to the 2, that planes would fall out of the sky. Back in 1500, people were scared also at the time of Martin Luther. He was a Reformation leader, and people thought the world was going to end in 1500. And Luther said, if I knew that tomorrow was the end of the world, I would plant an apple tree. Another translation is, even if I knew that tomorrow the world would go to pieces, I would still plant my apple tree. And for me, this is one of the keys to opening up our scripture today. Yes, there will be floods. Yes, there will be thieves in the night. Yes, there will be a lot of bad news in the world. But we can choose to act with hope, even in the midst of this bad news. Bad things are happening. I can respond with hope, with kindness, with caring for this generation and for future generations. But first, we have to wake up. Jesus says, be alert, be vigilant. Wake up, wake up. For Jesus and a lot of the writers of the New Testament, being asleep and being awake are not just physical states. They're also spiritual states of being. It's so easy to be on autopilot, to just like go through the motions, do the same things day after day, being lulled to sleep, beginning to take our close relationships for granted. We hear bad news, we shake our heads. Nothing's going to change. We're sleepwalking through life. We don't want to hear about it. We don't want to hear about it. And the bad news keeps coming. The latest news of fear happened on Thanksgiving Day. An Afghan refugee shot 2 people in the National Guard in D.C. The National Guard had been called to D.C. because people were afraid that police couldn't do their job. More fear was happening there. And one National Guard member, Sarah Beckstrom, just 20 years old, just 20, has since died from her wounds. Our hearts are broken, and we ask God to be with Sarah's family, to somehow bring strength and comfort in this unspeakable tragedy. And we're living in a time of fear. Fear of the other. Fear of people who are not like us, who don't look like us, who talk differently. And suddenly people are so wrapped up with fear, let's get rid of all people that look like that shooter. Or they want to remove them all. And other people are afraid that after many years of following the rules, of living with green cards or being here legally, working hard, contributing taxes, abiding by all the laws, they might be suddenly, randomly picked up. And who knows what could happen to them. And we see this happen again, and our hearts break over that too. Our hearts are breaking. The arrival of the Son of Man will be like Noah and the flood. People knew nothing until the flood hit and swept everything away. So stay awake. Wake up. You have no idea when the Son of Man is going to show up. So in this time of fear, how do we respond? What can we do? One, I see at least 3 distinct possibilities. One, We can ask Jesus to take us away. It's so bad. Take us away. Take us away. Like the rapture. We are the select few. Let bad things happen to other people. We want to be taken away up into the clouds. 2, we build a spiritual wall between ourselves and the world. We keep sleepwalking through life. We don't want to hear the bad news. We become numb. Just keep going through the motions. 3, we can wake up. We can awake. Is the world going to pieces? We can choose to respond with hope in this generation and in future generations. Back at another time of fear in our country, there was an actor on TV, and she had just decided to quit her TV job. Nichelle Nichols was playing the role of Lieutenant Uhura on Star Trek. And she thought it was going to be a great chance for her career to grow, but now she felt stuck. Well, yes, she was the first woman of color, to be on the bridge, to be in command, a commanding role on a TV show. But she was constricted by stereotypes. Imagine this: she's in space, a commander in space, wearing a miniskirt with high heels. What kind of role? What is that going to do for you? I mean, it's just trapped in stereotypes. She felt it was going nowhere. She was sleepwalking through life. Why just keep going through the motions? Why not get a real job, something serious, to advance her career as an actor? And the year was 1966. Tumultuous time in the country, the struggle for civil rights and equality, and there was a special dinner of the NAACP in California. Nichelle Nichols was at this dinner. She was being honored, but she was like, I'm just going to walk away. And at this dinner, she met someone she was told was her biggest fan. Who is the biggest fan of Nichelle Nichols? Martin Luther King Jr. Yes, Martin Luther King Jr. was the biggest one, the biggest fan. And he was at this fundraiser, and she told King she was going to leave the show. And King was adamant she could not leave this show of Star Trek. She had to stay on Star Trek. It was the only TV show he allowed his children to watch. Nothing else. He said, for the first time, King said, on TV, we can be seen as we should be seen every day, as intelligent, quality, beautiful people who can lead others into space. King says she could not give up. She had to stay on the bridge of the Star Trek Enterprise because she was playing a vital role model for black children and women across the country, as well for all children who would see her in this position as an equal, on the commanding bridge. And King compared what she was doing to her work to the marches for civil rights. This is part of the civil rights movement. You have to stay on Star Trek. Nichols said, I just stood there realizing every word he was saying was the truth. And at that moment, she said, the world tilted for me. Suddenly tilted. And she went back. She would continue in the role for years. And her role of Uhura proved to be groundbreaking, paving the way for women, for African American actresses to appear more and more on TV and in movies. Plus, from 1977 until 2015, she volunteered her time to promote real astronauts, NASA's programs. She was the one who recruited the first diverse astronauts for the NASA program, women and ethnic minority astronauts. Wake up. Suddenly, wake up. Respond with hope. Think about it. She helped us shape the future. Not just science fiction. What she was doing is actually not just influencing and encouraging people, she was literally sending people into space that could not get there before. Not sci-fi. For real. For real. In face of wide discrimination, in face of all the tumult of the civil rights era. The arrival of the Son of Man will be like Noah and the flood. People who knew nothing when the flood hit swept them away. Stay awake, wake up. You have no idea when the Son of Man is going to show up. When we respond with hope, sometimes I can see the Son of Man coming, showing up. When we respond with kindness, hope in the middle of disaster, suddenly, I see the Son of Man showing up. We talked a few weeks ago about this miracle of feeding 5,000 people. Our church just did that, 5,000 sandwiches for the outdoor church. And I see the Son of Man showing up. I see the Son of Man showing up, the mortal one, when our church participated in the interfaith Thanksgiving service just last Sunday evening. There we were in a world with so much anxiety and tension between different groups and people thinking one thing or another. We all came together, Muslims, Jews, Unitarians, agnostics, Christians. We came together in the service, united by serving our neighbor with love, loving our neighbor, and giving thanks and practicing gratitude. And it was amazing to hear also from people across the ages, from all the decades, a child who is less than 10, someone in their teens, someone in their 20s, all the way up to someone who stole the show, someone who was 104 years old, talking about their gratitude. And it was just an amazing service to hear gratitude from across the decades and all these diverse people show up. It was like the Son of Man was showing up at this Thanksgiving service. Acts of hope. It was very hopeful. I see the Son of Man, the mortal one, show up when I see caring people in our congregation, visit the sick, the lonely, send cards, reach out, say, you are not forgotten, you are loved. You are deeply, deeply loved. At Thanksgiving dinner this past Thursday, I was invited to my daughter's house. And you heard how my pumpkin cheesecake was well received this year at the house. And I was invited to the house in Brookline. And as I do every year at the table, I invite people to lift up a gratitude, what they're grateful for. And even little Quinn had something to say, but she wanted to dive into the food, of course. And then after dinner, Becca and Corey took a break to be a couple, to walk by themselves in the neighborhood in the darkness. And this can seem so tiny, but it just struck my heart. And she said as they walked through the neighborhood, it's all quiet, it's the evening of Thanksgiving, and they could see through the windows. And they would see at other tables people holding hands or standing in a circle in a kitchen holding hands, saying something. She couldn't hear the words. She kept walking on. And it seems so small, but yet in a world that can be crazed with fear, to know we're not alone. There are other circles out there. They're holding hands. They're expressing gratitude. They're praying with hope. And multiply that by street, by neighborhood, by town. Two men are working. Suddenly one is swept away in actions of hope. Two women are working. suddenly one of them is swept away in actions of kindness. The mortal one, the Son of Man, is arriving again and again, sometimes into the midst of a very, very fearful world. Wake up for hope. Wake up. Wake up for kindness. Thanks be to God.